Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video we are going to reassemble all this brake stuff here that you can see. In the last video we cerakoted the brake calipers as well as some other components. That was a good video. If you guys didn't see it, you should go back and check it out. I'll link it up here. But anyway, in this video I'm going to start off by rebuilding this front master cylinder. As you can see, we got the window out of it in the teardown. So we got a new window back here, and I'm gonna throw in the piston. Then after that, I'll show you guys rebuilding the rear master cylinder. That one didn't get a new window. And then we can move on to reassembling some more of this brake stuff. So let's get started. Alright, so we got the front master cylinder here. It's a little bit warm from sitting in front of the heater, which might help get the sight glass in a little easier. Hard to say. So I'm going to put a little bit of brake fluid around that area right there. New O-ring. And I'm going to get this O-ring all the way seated with a little bit more brake fluid on it so it seals up good. And here's the sight glass itself. I got a Tusk one from Rocky Mountain. So you can see it's clear, and hopefully it stays clear. So you want to put the side that has the holes in it down and try and get it in. Gonna have to hammer on it a little bit. And I really should have got a block of wood to do this. Would have made it a little bit easier. And you gotta be somewhat careful with these because it's not glass, it's plastic, so you could scratch it up a little bit. I guess that's better than glass though, which you could dent. And I don't even know how I'm gonna get this thing in here. I'm gonna have to get a block of wood and really pound on it some more. But you guys get the idea. You just gotta pound it in until it gets flush with the casing, and then you're good. Alright, we got that sight glass, and we ended up taking it to the vise and using a piece of wood to support the back side and a piece of flat steel on the front, and we're able to get that in there, and it looks like it's in good and it should be sealing fine. So now we got to put the piston, the hydraulic piston, in. So I'm gonna put some oil on the seals. No new seals for this because they were fine. It was just the rear we got second hand because it wasn't the original brakes, and so we threw some new seals in the rear, and you guys will see that in a minute once I get this thrown back together. So spring goes first, then that first seal goes in, and then that second seal, and you get the spring action. Now we got this washer, and I'm gonna do flat side down, and it's gonna sit like that. Now we've got to get this circlip in, and we got to push it pretty far to get this in, compress the spring. Alright guys, well, Nissan is not using the best circlips because, as we found out, that one shrunk a little bit, so we're gonna get a new one. So that's it for the front brake for now. We got to do another order anyway, so that's fine. Well, let's get this back brake back together. Alright guys, now that we got this rear brake master cylinder back together, we got the clevis here cerakoted with burnt bronze cerakote, and I'm going to throw it back on here just loosely. I'm not going to get it set for the final because we're going to have to get it on the bike and then figure out where it needs to be. But for now, it's on there, and the rear brake master seems to function as it should. So I need to get another order coming for the seals for the rear caliper and the rebuild kit, and then we can really get to work on this brake system, get those lines back on, and we'll have to get this stuff mounted back onto the bike at least somewhat. Try and get this onto the frame and the caliper onto the swing arm to bleed it, and get the bars on and throw the front onto the bars to bleed it. But it should be fun. Alright guys, I think it's about time we get some progress going on the brakes here. So I got the rear caliper here, and I got a new Tusk rebuild kit for it. So we got a couple of the seals. So what I'm going to do for the seals is I'm going to put a little bit of .4 brake fluid on it. You got some Maxima .4 brake fluid. And since this is cerakoted, it should be able to handle the brake fluid just fine. Kind of got to wiggle it into that groove. It's a tight fit, big seal / O-ring. And now we got the outer one. Now this one actually has lips. The inner one is kind of just a big chunk of rubber. So this is probably going to do most of the sealing. And the other one's kind of just an oil wiper. And it doesn't look like these are directional. If they are, well, it's too late, they're already going in. Well, never thought I was going to get up today and have this much of a challenge getting 2 tiny little brake seals in. Sure isn't easy though. Can't seem to do it. Alright, there we go. Got them in. And I got piston. Got it wrapped up pretty good here. And we got this thing polished up to chrome. Just on the outside, part that matters. So hopefully that helps the feel of these brakes a little bit, since the piston should slide pretty smooth. And I don't know if I'm gonna have enough brake fluid to get this job done, but I can at least get a start here. So you gotta get the piston past the seals without popping the seals out, like so. And if you look down the hole, and you see O-rings down there, that didn't work. But I don't think those things would really want to come out. They get tensioned in there pretty good. So I got the brake bleeder. Thought I had new ones, but apparently this kit didn't come with one. And I got the bleeder cap. No sense in getting this tight yet, because it's gonna have to come off for bleeding. So I'll leave it on like that. And now I think I gotta get it assembled onto the bracket. So I need to clean this bracket up a little bit. I vapor blasted it. I don't know if I recorded any of it, but if I did, I'll throw it up right now. But I can put in this one bolt holder here. Luckily we got a new one, because the old one was pretty wrecked. Alright guys, I cleaned this guy out a little bit inside with some water. So what we got to do here is I cleaned off this bolt stud locating pin thing, whatever you want to call it. Some old Loctite still on that, so it's a little stiff. And I put a ton of Loctite on this bolt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it real tight and just get it as tight as I can get, like that. And that is probably plenty of torque. They don't show you in the manual any torquing procedure at all for that. So I kind of just got to go by feel. And that felt about what I would think that would be. And I don't want to put this in the vise because it's so clean. So we got one rubber piece. I'm gonna put grease in it because they come with grease stock. I'll put a little bit down in the hole too, and some in the groove so it actually stays in while I'm assembling. And unfortunately, even with these clean parts, you gotta get them dirty at some point. So a little bit of grease gets us closer to getting them dirty, but I'll clean it up. So something like that. And need to put some grease into this guy too. So I think that's pretty good. And I'll throw this guy on. So you gotta align this one stud with the first piece of rubber we put in, and you kinda gotta jam it on there. So it goes on like that. The swing arm goes right here into this groove. And we got another bolt here. So I'll give it some grease and some Loctite. And this guy's got some big threads on it. Same thing. Get it into the rubber. And that's a 6. Get it started. Thread it down. And same torquing procedure. Loctite will take up the rest of it. And again, that's probably about 10 foot-pounds at least. And I could crank it more, but I don't want to. I don't want to break any of this stuff. So pretty much what those rubber pieces are for is it makes this stuff free. So you can see I can move it back and forth here a little bit. You guys probably can't see that super well, but it goes back and forth for sure. Pretty much what that is so it can find its happy spot, so it's not wearing on one thing more than another. So now for clips, got this one, cleaned it up a little bit, but didn't really want to come clean. And you want to make sure that the opening is like that, so your pad actually goes through. And this other one, I'll have to look at another bike. I think it goes something like this in here. I'll look at another bike, make sure I put this in right. And I think it goes in, I don't know, I'll make sure I do that right. So then for pads, I got some EBC reds, carbon based. And the reason I'm not going sintered metal with this is because what we've noticed is the carbon pads, especially for the front, they have plenty of braking power, more than you need to lock it up, but they have a little better feel than the sintered metals. The sintered metal pads will lock up a little bit faster and a little bit too fast. So let's see, it looks like it's gonna go in like this. So this is the non-piston side. We've got our heat shields. So there's a couple layers of these. You've got like an insulator layer and then like an outer metal layer, and it all kind of fits together real nice. Same thing on this side. This is the piston side. So that other inner clip goes on something like that and kind of clips on like so. So now for pads, I'll start with the piston side, and it hooks into that first little clip we put on and kind of goes into the second one, and I'll throw the other one on. Now that I got the pads, we've got a new pin. And even if these EBC red carbon pads don't have the best braking, they sure look nice, and from my experience, the braking is pretty good. This has got plenty of factory Loctite on it. Put a little bit of grease on the shaft so the pads will be able to slide around and find their spot. Bust out the wrench to get this pin in. It's got probably too much Loctite on it. And since this cerakoted, we didn't mask up this hole, so there's extra cerakote type Loctite in here too. So I think that's it right there. Now all I gotta do is find the little plug that goes here and get that put in just with a flat blade screwdriver. And I think this is about done here. Now we just gotta put on the line, get the master on, and I'll show you guys how to bleed these things on the bike. All right guys, so I got the Tusk new rear braided brake line here, and I always thought this was a little strange because Tusk is pretty much all out of Taiwan. This is made in the USA, but let me get this opened up here and show you. There's some of the stuff on here that just in the packaging that Tusk normally doesn't have, and this is only for the rear line. The front doesn't say made in the USA, but sounds familiar, doesn't it? Gallifer. So I don't know, I think these are actually Gallifer lines, so if you get a Tusk rear brake line, only the rear, they're definitely Gallifer. I don't know about the front, but it doesn't say that they're Gallifer, but whatever. Gallifer is pretty cheap, so if you want to order directly from them, they're not a bad option. And I'm not sure if the banjo bolts and crush washers are Gallifer as well, but that would be pretty cool if they were, but they're probably just Tusk. So I think what I need to do is I need to look at another bike, make sure I know how this gets routed properly, and then I can get this thrown on. So what it looks like is the side that has more of a bend in it goes towards the rear. So I'll put a crush washer on the banjo bolt into the fitting, then another crush washer, and thread that into the caliper, and it should go in smooth like so. I won't torque this just yet. I'll get it on the bike, make sure everything looks right, and then I'll get this torqued down. But let me get the front thrown on real quick. So it looks like what we gotta do for the front mount is the same thing with the banjo bolt and the washers, but we gotta get this to make a pretty tight turn. all the way around. That's going to be the challenge. So for now, I'll just put it on more straight, and it'll get bent once we put it on the bike. So I'll get this torqued down, and I got a new Tusk anodized cap, so I'll throw that guy on. Not torqued, but tight. Alright, so I got this guy figured out. So the tight bend it's gonna make is something like that. It's kind of close to kinking in the front, but that's just kind of how it is with this brake design. Surprising that they don't make it more straightforward, but they don't. There's the guts of it. I'm not sure if we have any new parts. I don't think I do though. Put the bolts into the Tusk cap, and the reason I got a Tusk cap instead of a Works connection cap is the Works connection cap is crazy expensive. I got a Works connection cap for the front though, because I don't need to rep Tusk everywhere. Alright guys, I got a little bit of a head start on the front. So I already got the seals in, and both of the studs and the rubber pieces. So now that I've done 6 of those little seals, I'm getting a little bit better at it. Did these 4 pretty quick, kind of get that technique. And it's a technique you only use once every year or so. So by the time I get around to doing another one, I probably won't have it anymore, but that's just how it goes. At least we're here building bikes. Hardest part is getting these things in straight. And when they go, they go. And I guess really the test is if you put it all back together, bleed it, squeeze it, and a bunch of oil comes shooting out, and you popped out one of the seals. Alright, I got both those in now. I need to clean this thing up a little bit. And hopefully I do have enough brake fluid to pound this out. I don't know, I think I got about 1/3 of this bottle left. So hopefully if the bleeding goes well, then I think we'll be fine. Just a little bit of brake cleans this up. And it's a little weird being able to use chemicals like this on paint, but it is Cerakote. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on the studs, and it goes back together. Now I gotta get the retainer clips and the pads ready. Alright guys, got this other clip in, had to pull the aluminum bracket off here, but that wasn't too bad. Other clip snaps on right there. Pads are the same thing, EBC red. Piston side goes in like that, and the other side goes in like that. A little bit of Loctite on the pin and some grease. Pin goes in right here. Pin's in. Already got the bleeder on. Need to find the little cap that goes in there, but I'll find that in a minute. And you guys, well, I guess you didn't see me put the other side in. Well, whatever, it's just a little cap. And the only other thing is the little bleeder cap, which goes on like that, and we cap it. So I'll get the brake line on next and get the front master cylinder hooked to it, and then we can bleed these things. So here is the Works connection master cap that I was talking about for the front. So at least you see this instead of Tusk. So I'm gonna put on the little rubber thing, and it'll go on like this so you can see it while you're riding. So I'll just put it in loosely for now. Now we can put the brake line on. So here is the Tusk Gallifer brake line. Comes in a Tusk package, but it's a Gallifer line. I think it's gonna be something like that. And I'll try my best to show this, but I don't think it's gonna happen. This line's crazy long. It's just flopping around. Well, I got it on. As long as I put it on the right side. That looks about right. And it looks like the front one needs to go on kind of how I have it here. So there it is. Looks like I got the brakes together now. We'll go kind of mock it up on the bike to make sure everything looks right. Well, it looks good. So now we got to get these things filled and bled. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. I was going to bleed the brakes in this video, but it was getting pretty long. So we're going to cut it here. If I did put that in, probably wouldn't get this out for another week. So that's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.